Hi everyone, it's Mark Merrill with Firm. Our journals continue on now with our topic, lawlessness can equal or lead to violence. Several organizations have submitted news releases and bulletins to media outlets recently, or the mainstream media, or about the mainstream media as well. Can't stay away from them. They keep opening their big yap, but lying all the time, as we like to call them, the lamestream media. And their unwilling ignorance of truth, facts, and common sense on any issue, anything, especially if it pertains to Donald Trump. Issues of the current status of the American society and culture, especially when it comes to featuring their wallets and bank accounts. Well, we at Firm take a partial journey into the hateful and shameful behavior of how major media corporations, since the emerging of the Trump administration mostly, and how they try to destroy, murder, and replace our Constitution, rights, and freedoms with socialistic corruption, infiltrate our schools and colleges, and just plain unpolitically corrected speech in the public squares of social media and everyday conversations within family units. Is that enough, folks? You'd think it would be. We have a lot of information to get to, folks. We don't want to wait to take too much time on any of these topics. So here goes. First, here's a segment from Hillsdale College's IMPRIMIS magazine, a copy of which you see before you, on Lawlessness-A Choice. I like the title. It's a presentation that was made by a Miranda Levine. But this presentation by a junior student at Hillsdale College gives us a reading of part of that article.
While being interviewed on a recent podcast, Texas Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett decided to opine on crime, a topic on which she apparently considers herself to be an expert. Her nutty conclusion was this: just because someone has committed a crime, it doesn't make them a criminal. I can see how this logic would have a wide range of uses for politicians. Just because someone told a lie, it doesn't make them a liar. Just because someone took a bribe, it doesn't make them corrupt. It's a bit like the thought experiment. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? If a crime is committed and no one is responsible, was there actually a crime at all? Of course it's nonsense. A criminal is defined precisely as a person who has committed a crime. But when Crockett chooses her own definitions, she is simply echoing a progressive shibboleth that has turned blue cities across the country into lawless hellholes. It holds that people who commit crimes have no agency, that they are helpless victims of circumstance. Therefore, any attempt to hold them accountable by arresting them or putting them in jail is unjust. It further victimizes them. The obvious result of this logic is that criminals are emboldened and their real victims become helpless hostages to lawlessness. It is a short step from Crockett's logic to the justification of defunding the police as a way to make communities safer. That communities become safer by having fewer police is of course a lie, but defunding police is what progressives have been doing since the anti-cop, BLM, Antifa riots of the Summer of Love in 2020. As a former police reporter, I've seen how soft on crime policies hurt the very people progressives pretend to care about. It's precisely the most vulnerable in our big cities who need the most policing and have the least resources to protect themselves from mayhem. Living in New York City off and on over the past 3 decades, including in the pre-mayor Rudy Giuliani era, when it was a dystopian hellscape of crime and no-go zones, it's striking how quickly soft-on crime policies at the state and local level destroy your day-to-day sense of safety. Progressive criminal justice reforms such as defunding the police, ending cash bail, refusing to prosecute misdemeanors, letting thousands of convicted felons out of prison early, and slashing the prison population are the most obvious contributors to the escalating violent crime problem in blue cities. In 2014, Bill de Blasio was elected mayor of what he boasted was the safest big city in America. He championed all sorts of progressive policies, from bail reform to decriminalizing offenses, such as public urination and marijuana possession. And eventually, the New York City Council defunded the NYPD to the tune of $1 billion. As predicted by everybody with any understanding of human nature, it did not take long for the city to become scary. There was a surge of many mentally ill, homeless people accorded the so-called freedom to sleep on streets. And open-air drug bazaars popped up all over the place. This was followed by a surge of violent crime, including a spate of people being pushed in front of subway trains. Shoplifting became so normalized that convenience and drugstores had to lock up toothpaste. The decriminalization of pot and public urination has only turbocharged the sense of chaos and disorder in blue cities. It marks a rejection of the famous broken windows theory that was the key to turning New York City around under Giuliani. The theory holds that addressing minor crimes, such as vandalism and public intoxication, creates an atmosphere of order and lawfulness. By contrast, the policy of ignoring so-called minor crimes encourages disorder and lawlessness. People don't knowingly or willingly vote for their quality of life to deteriorate. But this is the progressive template. Whether in the cities they control or on a national level, with the open borders policy that under the Biden administration brought in 20 to 25 million illegal migrants, many of them criminals.
That's just a segment of this article, folks. Lawlessness is a choice. Well, we here at Firm obviously couldn't agree more with that one. It's just ridiculous. And this Jasmine Crockett, she's just the most recent addition to the squad. Like, we need more people from the squad telling us what to do. One addition to this article, folks, that we want to present that's also part of this IMPRIMIS magazine article, presentation, and we want to correct, I believe, it's Miranda Devine. Not Miranda Levine, it's Miranda Devine. She's a columnist for the New York Post, a Fox contributor, and host of Pod Force One with Miranda Devine, if you want to find her. President Trump fulfilled his promise to secure the border within the first 100 days of his second term. Now, you know what? That's got to set some kind of a record if you're a sports fan at all. But this isn't sports, folks. This is real life. The Democrats, or the deflectocrats, as we like to call them, don't seem to think that that's funny, because they don't have a sense of humor. You know what they also don't have? They don't have a country, just like the rest of us. You shut us down, Schumer. You shut us down, Jeffries. And so did the rest of you deflectocrats, including the mainstream media. Screw yourself. You people who protest on the corners of our streets in Waterville, Maine, a city that's right by my town, in the center of our state, just north of the state capital, where there's a lot of corruption going on with Janet Mills as governor. We can't wait to get rid of her. Point being, however, you have nothing to cry about. You got it so easy. You're still fighting the Vietnam War on the corner of Upper Main Street. Well, you should be caring about your grandchildren and their future. Get off the street and go to work. But the hard part for the Trump administration and Trump himself is deportations. Things have been going along pretty well lately. You'd think every American would welcome the removal of sorts of criminal degenerates who raped and murdered Laken Riley, Rachel Morin, and the 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary. But not ICE and Border Patrol officers are under attack. Violent, organized, and militants who throw rocks at their vehicles, slash their tires, and obstruct their movements. Officers have also been doxxed and labeled fascists. Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we're in a fight to control or actually take back our country. And we need to pretty damn soon. As for our government shutdown, folks, I'm sure your eyes and ears are full of negativity on this. I'm tired of hearing about finger-pointing by the deflectocrats and finger-pointing by the Republicans going the other way and saying, hey, let's get this done, and nothing gets done. Well, this is a new one from a outside source, a magazine and newspaper that's really birdcage liner, but we take it for the, at least, brevity of getting to the point. USA Today reported on the 30th, we believe, the 30th of October, Federal judges ordered Trump administration to continue SNAP benefits. Demand, demand, demand. As written by Zachary Shemili and Rebecca Morin and about 4 others on USA Today staff. Gee, you need that many to write an article? What are you, just fresh out of journalism school or high school? I didn't say much for USA Today if it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 writers to publish this. SNAP benefits could be happening November 1st or as early as November 3rd, which is the next business day coming up around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. In a possible reprieve for millions of families on the brink of losing that aid, 2 federal judges ruled the Trump administration cannot stop funding for SNAP benefits amid protracted government shutdowns. Regular funding for SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, was due to run out November 1st. The well is run dry, said the Agriculture Department. However, rulings by these judges in Massachusetts and Rhode Island issued within minutes of each other and ordered the department to use $5.25 billion in contingency funds to continue it. There's no doubt, it's beyond argument, that irreparable harm will begin to occur if it hasn't already. It's the reality they post in their article, and the terror it has caused some people about the availability of funding for food and for their families, according to Judge John McConnell. One other piece of information given by this writing. Don't just take it for what it is, folks. Mark Merrill on Firm today in the journals. As we continue in our journals segments, lawlessness can lead to violence is our title. Cutting off SNAP or WIC, Women, Infant, and Children program, would hit single mothers hardest. It's about keeping babies fed. Duh. As recently as last month, the Agriculture Department had said that the $5.25 billion at issue could be used to continue food aid. October 10th was the date. As a matter of fact, you look at our last podcast, folks, it was all about Janet Mills borrowing or taking or no bipartisan meeting or quick special consideration to the Republicans, but just went ahead by herself and borrowed $1.2 million for Maine people's SNAP and food pantry and other programs here. Yeah. Boy. I'd hate to be her budget appropriations committee Dems. The department, meaning the Agriculture Department back here, reversed itself amid a standoff with Senate Democrats who demanded the restoration of large cuts to the Affordable Care Act. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about health care. Get the government working again so people will have their food, folks. We're a breath away from Thanksgiving and Christmas. Get real. They say, you've heard this before, this old song and dance, folks, and it's a lousy tune. Restoration of large cuts to the ACA, or Obamacare, in return for their votes on a short-term measure to fund the government. Yeah, right. So the Trump had no immediate comment on that remark. Justice Department lawyers had argued that it isn't possible to provide partial benefits which cost up to $9 billion per month from the contingency fund that the judges are screaming about. Nice try. Oops. Here in Maine, I should say back here in Maine, folks, House Republicans and Democrats are still at each other's throats on policy. We understand you can't probably see all of this, folks, but basically what it says in the bold headline up here, out at the very top, is Democrats block bipartisan public safety and mental health bill. Right here in the state of Maine. When did this happen? Well, this was a proposal from lawmaker John Bott, B-O-T-T, October 23rd. So here's how that went, folks. Just what we need is more things to worry about when we're trying to get SNAP and food benefits back on the table for 100,000 or more people in the state of Maine that are going to go without if something isn't done soon. So Janet Mills took it to her own table and decided she was going to do something about it. Guess it's not a big deal that she borrowed money from other funds to do it. A proposal supported by the Department of Public Safety, NAMI of Maine, and Governor Mills rejected on the party line vote to pass a bipartisan public safety and mental health bill by a 6-4 party line vote. The bill is LR 2585, an act to strengthen Maine's extreme risk protection order process by supporting crisis receiving centers, requiring school resource officer education, and establishing the Yellow Flag Public Safety Fund. Also co-sponsored by Representative Jennifer Poirier of Skowhegan. It proposed a comprehensive bipartisan plan to enhance school safety, expand mental health infrastructure, and strengthen Maine's nationally recognized yellow flag law, also known by its legal name as the Extreme Risk Protection Order Law, ERPO. See, the deflectocrats just want to go by colors. They don't care about the legalities. Keep that one in mind, folks. Especially when you're voting for governor next year. This is one that's important, folks. LR 2585 had 4 major components. It doesn't mean the bill is dead, though. This is a proposal that the party line Democrats, as you can tell by the vote, 6-4, voted it down. That still doesn't mean it's dead, though. The 4 major components include training for schools resource officers under Maine's Extreme Risk Protection Order law to ensure consistency and lawful crisis response in schools. Creation of a yellow flag public safety fund to support law enforcement training, firearm safety storage, and suicide prevention materials statewide. Expansion of crisis receiving centers in Aroostook and Kennebec counties, which is where we are, to divert individuals in crisis from jails and emergency rooms to appropriate clinical care. And establish 5 certified community behavioral health clinics to expand access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, outpatient mental health and substance abuse or use treatment. Even though they received the backing of the Department of Public Safety, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, or we just said NAMI, and Governor Mills, underscoring its broad partisan support and practical focus on prevention, training, and mental health care, Representative Poirier added, co-sponsor of the bill, this represents common sense, balanced safety reform that could have helped prevent the tragedies in Lewiston. But oh no. They had better things to do. Yuck. One final report here, folks, on our firm report that takes many shapes and forms of lazy dog or cat scratch fever syndromes, whichever you like. Lawlessness equals or can lead to violence. The organization Combat Anti-Semitism Movement is under this particular article, which we will briefly go over with you folks. It gives a roundup on their global fight against violence on Israel and the Jewish state. An Alabama man was detained on a particular date. I believe it was October 26th over an alleged plot Alabama man detained on this date over an alleged plot to target multiple synagogues across the southern United States. Police search of the suspect's home uncovered weapons, ammunition, and body armor believed to be intended for use in the attacks. The arrest occurred in the 7th anniversary of the Tree of Life Synagogue massacre in Pittsburgh, the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history. An Israeli educator is assaulted in Manhattan. Other incidents documented by Anti-Semitism Research Center, along with CAM. A 58-year-old Israeli educator was attacked outside a Manhattan kosher restaurant by an assailant who demanded, "Tell me what your religion is." Muslim Student Association members at 2 Northern Virginia high schools filmed videos mimicking violent kidnappings to promote their club. In Austria, a country you very rarely hear about, folks, middle of Europe, a 12-year-old Jewish boy was physically and verbally assaulted by a peer while walking home from school in the nation's capital of Vienna. CAM has also announced this organization called Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, announced the hiring of a renowned civil rights attorney and anti-Semitism expert, Eliza Lewin, as president of U.S. Affairs. She will lead CAM's American operations and oversee strategic engagement, programming coordination, and collaboration with government, education, and civic institutions nationwide. A couple of more things from the organization of CAM, folks, as we finish up our program here on lawlessness. How about that? It's a choice. You can become lawful, help the cops, or you can be a real jerk. CAM also hosts delegations of U.S. state attorneys, attorneys general, lawmakers, New York State, city and port authority police leaders who toured Israel. Physically in the country, folks. CAM also helped organize a trade mission led by Nebraska Governor Jim Pillen. One final statistic here, folks, about CAM. You can support them by going and finding the, as we said, Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, cam.org, cam.com. We'll put that in our notes and comments. A couple of other pieces of information, ladies and gentlemen. And you can donate to CAM as well to fight the global war against anti-Semitism. In Norway, state TV broadcaster airs anti-Semitic joke, removed. In Germany, F Jews, F Israel vandalism in Germany. Here in the United States, a man in Nazi uniform assaults the University of Georgia student. And in the Ukraine, Jewish cemetery desecrated in Viznichia. As always, folks, keep us in mind and keep us in your thoughts and prayers as we promote nothing but truth, facts, reality, and common sense on a regular basis. I think you all know that by now. We are FIRM, Fairness in Reporting Media. Podcasts on Twitter or X and YouTube. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And also, don't forget, email us anytime, 24 hours, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Everybody stay safe. Pray for our upcoming elections on November 4th for question 1 and question 2. Peace to all.